I know I said I was probably going to do a few videos on Proverbs, and today's not necessarily on Proverbs, but I think it could be a proverb. And it's actually a comment that somebody left me. I think it's wisdom passed down from their granddad, and it's really stuck with me. And that's something that I've noticed that a lot of people say, yeah, my grandparent, or a lot of times it's the granddad, but I'm sure some grandmas are involved as well, telling their grandchildren, don't believe anything on the TV. Everything on the TV is fake. That's a big one. But an even stronger statement than that is one that really has stuck with me, and I love it. Somebody left a comment once telling me that their grandpa always told them, don't believe anything you hear, and only believe half of what you see. And I think that guy had it figured out, man. He knew. Literally, don't believe anything that somebody just tells you. If somebody just tells you something, that is not belief worthy. And I just love that. And even half of what you see, because we can't even believe our eyes these days. And just because you see something, that's not proof enough. And that to me shows that that person understood that deceivers are out there always trying to prove their deception. Hey, look, I have a picture of this thing, or, like NASA. We can't just talk fairy tales all the time. We somehow got to prove it with a picture. And of course, there's underlying deceptions. You're not seeing what they tell you you're seeing. You're seeing something. It is a picture, but it won't be what they tell you it is. And I'm just leaving that as the proverbial wisdom for today's video. Don't believe anything you hear, and only believe half of what you see. You need to be skeptical if you don't want to be deceived. There are so many deceivers out there and tricksters who love duping people, and the joke about gullible being written on the ceiling and all that, the middle school games of how gullible everybody is. Well, everybody really is gullible, and just believe basically anything that they're told, unless they grow a backbone and start discovering truth for themselves. If you're just accepting what the world throws at you, you're very gullible. So this is really interesting. 1 John chapter 4 verses 1 through 6 tells us to don't believe anybody who won't admit that Jesus Christ came in the flesh and is of God, is divine in nature. Don't believe anybody who won't at least establish that fact. So I'm going to read this. I think I have maybe one more verse from another part of the Bible, and then I just have a specific example from Reddit. So let me read this. Beloved, believe not every spirit, but try the spirits, whether they are of God, because many false prophets are gone out into the world. Hereby know ye the Spirit of God. Every spirit that confesseth that Jesus Christ is come in the flesh is of God, and every spirit that confesseth not that Jesus Christ is come in the flesh is not of God. And this is that spirit of Antichrist, whereof ye have heard that it should come, and even now already is in the world. Ye are of God, little children, and have overcome them, because greater is he that is in you than he that is in the world. They are of the world, therefore speak they of the world, and the world heareth them. We are of God, he that knoweth God heareth us. He that is not of God heareth not us. Hereby know we the spirit of truth and the spirit of error. So the Bible mentions many times about if you're just doing what the world does, if you're just buying into what the world sells you, that is false. Does not come from the spirit of truth. Satan is a deceiver. He's the father of all lies, and Satan is the prince of this world. So if you just buy what the world is selling, you're eating right out of Satan's hand. Isaiah chapter 6 verse 9. This is a concept that is brought up many, many times in the Bible, and it's clear that God is the one who removes the scales from our eyes. It's a supernatural spell that many of us were under, and it's supernatural that we even woke up to this deception. Isaiah chapter 6 verse 9. And he said, Go and tell this people, hear ye indeed, but understand not, and see ye indeed, but perceive not. We can literally see things and see it the wrong way, make the wrong conclusions from it. Literally hear things, but you're not hearing the words correctly. You're not interpreting the words correctly. Usually when people speak, this is just from one of those Got Christianity, Got Questions websites. Sometimes those are spot on. They're not all bad. Usually when people speak of the Great Deception, they refer to this to 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 11, which predicts that God will, in an end times judgment, send a powerful delusion so that they will believe the lie. This great deception is associated with the satanic work of the Antichrist and his displays of power through signs and wonders that serve the lie. In the end, especially, there's going to be great signs and wonders played out. I mean, just look at the amazing things that technology is capable of doing these days. And Bluebeam, not even to get into things like Bluebeam. People will be deceived. Deception is a huge part of end times. The same passage in 2 Thessalonians also speaks of a great apostasy, probably pronounced that wrong, that will take place before the man of lawlessness is revealed. Similar apostasies are predicted elsewhere. The Spirit clearly says that in later times some will abandon the faith and follow deceiving spirits and things taught by demons. So this is just one example, okay? I didn't get to see the totality eclipse, this one that just happened. However, I was in the path of totality for the other eclipse. I also remember growing up in the 90s and teachers constantly telling you, never look at the sun, never look at the sun, don't look at the sun. And I'm just a contrarian type of person. Somebody tells me a million times to not look at the sun, and they pretend like I'm going to die if I look at it. I can tell that that's bullshit. And so I looked at the sun as a child, and it does not. Obviously, you can tell when you're looking at a light that becomes too bright. And that's actually one way that I know that the sun's brighter than it used to be. And that maybe that's part of the spellcraft, what they're doing. Don't look at the sun, don't look at the sun, don't look at the sun, because they don't want you to be able to notice that the sun is changing. Maybe they already knew back then that the sun is going to go through some crazy changes, and they don't want anybody noticing. The whole don't look at the sun during a solar eclipse, that's like the safest time to look at the sun. The sun is literally blocked out. I don't believe by the moon. I don't know what's exactly going on a solar eclipse. It's kind of interesting. But if there is a time that you could look directly at the sun, I mean, that would be it. Now, I guess some things. I do believe that you can annihilate your eyes very quickly if you're, let's say you're like using binoculars and then looking at the sun, if you're doing something that involves lenses. But I don't believe that God made creation so that this giant thing that is in the sky every single day is going to annihilate your retina if you just look at it. That's obviously not the case. That's obviously a bunch of bullshit. This is obviously one of those instances where there is deception here, but nobody's going to talk about it. Nobody's going to say, hey, I look at the sun sometimes and my eyes aren't totally annihilated. It's just one of those pieces of BS information that gets propagated over and over. One that I always think of is how they try to tell people that your taste buds have zones on your tongue. That is so BS, and anybody that has ever eaten anything in their life can know that that's BS, but they still teach it in school as if it's fact. So these are just some silly Reddit comments. I'm honestly quite scared that one of my wonderful morons, wow, okay, that's what these people think of their students, that they're morons. I mean, maybe if they're just listening to everything that you say. I'm showing another video and describing in more detail why it's worse than a quick glance on a regular day. I guess and this is where science will make a video about any bullshit. They're like, we don't want people looking at the eclipse, so we're going to make up and pretend that it's worse to look at the eclipse than it is on a normal day. Because, you know, there's going to be people out there that say, hey, I've looked at the sun and my eyes aren't annihilated. And so they'll say, well, this is different. The sun's blocked out, so it's actually going to hurt your retina even more. What? I mean, it's just like you taste sweet on a certain part of your tongue. What are you talking about? If I eat an apple, I don't only feel the sweetness on one part of my tongue. That's stupid. Same thing with this. And notice, I think that this is hilarious that they Trump is involved with this. Because part of the media thing is that, oh, Trump is such an idiot. So this is one of those things where Trump looks at the solar eclipse. I looked at the solar eclipse with my eyes. My eyes are fine. I have no damage to my eyes. Just because somebody could potentially keep their eyes open and look at the sun for so long that it does damage their eyes. That doesn't mean that anybody that looks at the sun at all is an idiot, but that's what they'll say. Sun gazing is a phenomenon for a reason, because you can actually look at the sun and it doesn't destroy your eyes. Although these days, I will say that the sun is so bright these days, it's not the same. It's not like it was in the 90s. In the 90s, you really could look at the sun for longer than like half a second, and it's not going to destroy your eyes. These days, sometimes it's hard to even look towards the sun, and it's so bright. And this is Isaiah, end times prophecy. The sun is brighter than it used to be. Anyways, teachers, I guess a point here is that teachers are patsies. They think they're so smart. Teachers are the worst students, too. Anybody in education will be able to confirm what I'm saying is true. Educators are the worst students. They think that they always know the right answer because they're going to just repeat whatever the super science-y, and that can change in an instant, and then you're going to have to just move on to that new thing. But yeah, teachers are the worst students, which is an interesting concept. But anyways, it's not okay to look at it. I was telling my students several days, don't look at this super fascinating phenomenon. Don't look at this once-in-a-lifetime phenomenon. Don't even look at it. You got to wear our special glasses. This is almost reminding me of those Boquito-proof glasses. Don't look at the gorilla unless you have these Boquito glasses on. Again, if you're staring at the sun for prolonged periods of time, go ahead and use protection. I'm just using common sense here and saying that school directly teaches a bunch of bullshit that goes against common sense even, but that's part of the deception, that's part of the magic, that they get to dictate what's true or false. Even though I can look at the sun with my eyes and I can look at a solar eclipse and not get blinded, Trump can look at the solar eclipse and not get blinded, they'll still call you an idiot and say, you're going to get blinded if you look at the solar... But I literally just did it and I didn't get blinded, so who's the idiot here? The one who just did that, or the one who's telling everybody, you're gonna die if you look at the sun? And of course, they'll just say, well, we're just being safe because you could potentially... Okay, well, if you're basing they treat everybody like children, like we all need our special education helmets on to walk around the world, and big science man is gonna tell us how to not get hurt. I teach 8th graders and have gone into great detail about how their eyes will burn and what their vision would be like for possibly the rest of their lives. We have school like normal and they will be dismissed at the eclipse as the eclipse is happening. They have asked repeatedly about looking. They're seeking guidance and you're just flat out lying to them. What I would tell them is, don't stare directly at any sort of bright object for so long that your eyes are not feeling good. If it feels too bright, okay, stop looking at it. But I'll tell them, you're not going to go blind from looking at it for a couple seconds and looking away. But, and this is maybe how they cover their ass, that they can say, well, on the off case that they don't want to be the one that says it actually is okay to look at the sun a little bit. Because if somebody takes that information, they say, well, I kept my eyes open and I stared at it for 15 minutes and now my eyes ruined, I'm going to sue you. Maybe that's their logic behind blatantly lying to people about things. Too stressful. Of course, now I can't find the video I wanted to show. If they can find a video that says it's got to be true. They need to find Nat Geo telling them, hey, it's actually worse on a solar eclipse day. Look at this bullshit. It went into detail about how your pupil is dilated due to the darkness and allows a larger amount of light and radiation to reach the retina compared with a normal sunny day. And this is where you see, like, oftentimes, just because something is, like, theoretically possible and because, like, okay, that could be the case, they're going to say that this is definitive proof that your retinas are going to get blasted on this day, because there could be some grain of truth to, but I'm pretty sure your pupils being dilated is going to be offset by the fact that the sun is like literally covered up by something, right? It's a lot less bright. This one is a pretty good video. Anyways, that is it for this. Leave me a comment if you've ever looked at the sun before and your eyes still function normally. I have 20/20 vision. I have perfect vision, and I stared at the eclipse 7 years ago, And it's just one of those interesting things where if you're willing to call the system out as a bunch of bullshit, and if you're going to do it your own way, you're going to get painted as an idiot. And, well, that's just something you got to get used to if you're not of this world, that the world will reject you and mock you. Hope you enjoyed this video. God bless everyone.